There is a cruel paradox silently suffocating your worth. The harder you strive to nurture them, the more they take your presence for granted. Before we strip away this bitter truth, hit like and subscribe as an act of confirmation that you are ready to shed your old, fragile self. Leave a comment. I refuse to be undervalued. This is not a message for me. It is a contract you sign with your own soul here at Stoic Journey. The truth requires no flowery words. Humans do not treasure what is always available. They only begin to value what they are at risk of losing. When you offer unconditional patience and loyalty, you unknowingly train them to believe they don't have to do anything to keep you. You are like a restaurant serving cold food with an air of entitlement, yet you still patiently pay the full bill. You think this is nobility, but in reality, you are teaching them exactly how poorly they can treat you, because you will never leave. In an auction, if a precious item is suddenly given away for free, the bidders immediately lose interest. When the barrier of price vanishes, its value in their eyes evaporates. You have turned yourself into a free sample in their supermarket, rather than a privilege they must strive to earn. Do not mistake blind sacrifice for a path to respect. People do not learn through explanations or pleading. They only learn through consequences. The consequence of taking you for granted is losing access to your energy. The coming silence is not a retreat. It is a costly declaration of a new standard, a place where no one is permitted to enter unless they bring a commensurate level of appreciation. Prepare yourself, for when you stop being a backup plan, you become a mystery they will crave in utter shock. 1. Stop trying too hard. Look deep into this naked truth. In human psychology, anything achieved too easily is cast into the corner of oblivion. You are exhausting yourself chasing a shadow, failing to realize that your very haste is pushing them further away. The more you try to prove you are worthy, the more you accidentally confirm that you are in a weak position, gambling your entire self-esteem on the validation of someone who won't even look back. Never turn your ironclad loyalty into free samples displayed carelessly in a supermarket lobby. People taste those samples, nod their approval, and walk away without a second thought, simply because they didn't have to pay. They feel no responsibility to cherish it. You have offered a lifetime of devotion in exchange for the indifference of a stranger passing by. The employee who always does everyone else's work without complaint is rarely the one promoted. They simply become a convenient tool the boss assumes will always be there. In a relationship, the one who always texts first, plans everything, and forgives indiscriminately is the one who receives cold apathy in return. Why? Because your presence has become like oxygen. Vital, yes, but no one feels the need to thank the air every time they breathe. From a Stoic perspective, the mistake lies not in their betrayal, but in the fact that you lowered your standards to compromise with their laziness. You have nurtured a toxic lie that if you keep giving, you will receive. But the truth is, people do not value what they receive. They value what they must effort to obtain. When you stop the chase, you don't lose them. You are simply reclaiming stolen power. Do not shatter your own peace to fill someone else's void. Reclaim those luxury samples and place them in the most sacred spot, within your own self. Let them wonder why that abundant energy suddenly dried up, why that warmth suddenly turned cold. When they begin to feel the vast emptiness you left behind, that is when silence begins its brutal mission. A wordless language powerful enough to crush the most superficial pride, forcing them to face the price of the loss they have long ignored. 2. The power of silence. When the footsteps of the chase stop, a different kind of power takes the throne. Silence. Do not mistake silence for weakness. In reality, silence is the only language of power that those who undervalue you truly understand. Humans do not naturally listen with their ears. They feel through absence. Imagine living next to a radio that plays 24/7. At first, you might listen, but after a while, that sound becomes mere white noise blending into the background. You only startle into realization when the sound is suddenly cut off, leaving an ear-splitting stillness. This is how you have existed in their life. A presence so willing, so noisy with explanations, arguments, and pleas that they shifted you into mute long ago. Our greatest mistake is believing that if we speak enough or explain deeply enough, they will finally empathize with our pain. But the cold truth is this: words teach no one. Only loss does. When you stop explaining, you reclaim control. Look at the reality. When you receive a half-hearted text at midnight after days of being ignored, your old reflex is to write a long paragraph to vent your frustration. Stop. The moment you hit send, you grant them the reassurance that you are still there, still waiting, and still easily manipulated. Conversely, when you choose absolute silence, you force them to face their own ghosts in the mirror. They expect an explosion, but you give them a vacuum. From a Stoic perspective, silence is not a psychological trick to manipulate someone into coming back. It is the process of realizing you don't need anyone's validation to exist. Silence is your declaration that your energy is too expensive to waste on those who don't know its worth. When you vanish without warning, without a single somber post on social media, you create an enigma that triggers panic. They will begin to hunt for traces of you, checking every status, wondering where you are, what you are doing, and why you no longer need them. This uncertainty is what will gnaw away at their superficial pride. This silence only holds power if it is accompanied by a silent, internal assent. Do not stay silent waiting for them to realize your worth. Stay silent so that you realize your own. Your absence must be a life sentence for those who disregarded your presence. Do not let blind compassion or temporary loneliness break the stone wall you've just built. For once you speak again just to soothe their curiosity, you fall right back to where you started. A backup plan, and nothing more. Let them drown in the void they created while you silently molt into a version of yourself they no longer have the right to touch. Silence is merely the stepping stone for a leap so great that you will become unrecognizably radiant. And that is the moment the game truly flips. 3. Level up in silence. The silence you have established is not a void of nothingness. It is your armory, the forge where you begin the process of molting in the shadows. Never make the mistake of announcing to the world that you are focusing on yourself or posting cryptic statuses about change. Real power moves in silence. The world, and especially the person who undervalued you, does not fear what they can foresee. They are terrified of what they cannot predict. When you suddenly vanish from their radar with no explanation and no suggestive imagery, you create a haunting instability. They will begin to wonder, are you falling apart? Or are you building something monumental? Start by purifying your mind. Purge the old films of trauma and hurt from your brain. If they're replaying what they said or did as simply continuing to offer your precious energy to someone unworthy. Instead, channel that simmering resentment into forging your body. Sweating in the gym isn't about having a revenge body to make them regret. It's so that when you look in the mirror, you see a warrior looking back instead of a fragile victim. Every drop of sweat is a drop of weakness being flushed out. Simultaneously, begin building your personal empire, whether it's your career, finances, or a skill you abandoned while chasing them. Money and success speak a language of their own. It is colder and more expensive than any argument. Look at the reality of leaders. They never stop to explain to those behind them why they are running faster. A friend of mine was once abandoned because he had no future. He didn't say a word. He deleted his social media and vanished from their shared social circles for 2 years. The day he reappeared as a successful business owner, his aura wasn't arrogant or vengeful, it was terrifyingly indifferent. When his ex messaged him, he responded with the brief politeness one would give a distant business acquaintance. That brilliance didn't come from flexing on social media. It came from the fact that he had truly surpassed the threshold to the point where she no longer possessed the status to disturb his mind. True leveling up is becoming untouchable. You become so radiant that when they look at you, they don't see the person they once trampled. They see a stranger, powerful and mysterious. Your shine at this stage isn't meant to lure them back. It is to confirm that access to your life is permanently closed. You are no longer on the same frequency. When their ego flares up and they send a half-hearted text to see if the bait is still being taken, they will be shocked to find that they are facing a diamond wall with no cracks. But this ascent is only the beginning of a more ruthless conclusion, because next, we will learn how to extinguish their final, superficial efforts with a prideful cruelty. Bon. Stop responding to weak attempts. When the radiance of your silent transformation finally catches their eye, the lazy hunters will begin to resurface. But stay vigilant, for they are not returning with a repentant heart. They are returning to toss you breadcrumbs, aimless midnight texts like, "How have you been?" or "I miss you," when they are feeling empty. Never confuse their boredom with genuine appreciation for you. According to Stoic philosophy, responding to these half-hearted efforts is an act of self-debasement. It indirectly teaches them that a minimum level of effort is still enough to buy your attention. Imagine you are running a 5-star restaurant with rigorous standards and a prestigious menu. If a guest walks in, refuses to pay, but demands a lavish feast, what would you do? Would you kneel and offer your finest dish in the hope they might pay next time? Absolutely not. You would show them the exit. Life is the same. When you accept hollow messages and empty promises backed by zero action, you turn your value into a free commodity that no one desires. Those breadcrumbs are merely tools for them to check if you are still under their control, to see if the prey will still bite as easily as before. In reality, we often see people ready to overlook weeks of silence just for a breathless, "I'm sorry." They believe this is forgiveness, but in truth, it is a lack of self-respect. If they truly valued you, they would never have left you waiting in the dark to begin with. Your presence is a privilege, not a backup plan for their lonely hours. You cannot demand respect from others when you are still being lenient with those who trample over your standards. From the deeper perspective, rejecting weak attempts is not arrogance. It is the wisdom of protecting your personal energy. When you do not respond to a meaningless text, you send a message more expensive than 10,000 words. The price to access me has gone up, and you currently lack the currency to pay. Let that silence be an iron barrier, forcing them to realize that the easy version of you is dead. If they cannot step forward with effort commensurate to your worth, let them stay outside your life forever. Never give them a second chance to undervalue you, for misplaced tolerance is simply an invitation for the next injury. And as they begin to tremble before your cold silence, they will face a devastating truth that they have permanently lost the right to step into the world of the person they once thought they could own for a lifetime. 5. Become the plot twist. It is time to rewrite your own ending with a masterstroke of character. Their greatest mistake was believing they had already read every part of you. They are smug, thinking they know your every move, your every reaction, and exactly how much you can endure before you turn back to chase them again. In reality, we often accidentally turn ourselves into a boring, long-running TV series. No matter how badly they behave, the audience, them, knows for certain that you will forgive, reappear, and soothe their ego. Today, let that old script die in the face of their absolute bewilderment. Becoming a plot twist isn't about retaliation. It's about affirming that you have completely broken free from their orbit. Imagine a classic film where everyone expects the protagonist to collapse and beg for mercy, but at the climax, that character simply smiles with total composure and walks straight into the darkness, leaving behind a silence so vast it feels haunted. This is the power of being unpredictable. When they throw coldness at you, certain that you would text them with questions, choose absolute silence. When they disappear, thinking you'll sit by the phone, reappear somewhere new, radiant, working on projects they've never heard of. Uncertainty is the most devastating weapon against their arrogance. When they no longer know what you are thinking, where you are, or if you even still care, they will begin to descend into panic and obsession. In real life, look at those who suddenly abandon a long-standing habit of servitude. A friend of mine was once the loyal carrier for a group of friends who exploited him. He was always there when they needed him, and silent when ignored. One day, without explanation or argument, he simply declined every call and focused on learning a new language to transfer his career abroad. His sudden disappearance and subsequent brilliant success left those who once looked down on him frantic to reconnect. But by then, he had become an enigma they were no longer qualified to decode. True surprise doesn't come from acting a part. It comes from the fact that you have actually surpassed the threshold of your old self. You are no longer that person, so their old tricks naturally no longer work. When you stand still or walk away at the exact moment they expect you to run after them, you send an expensive message. You vastly underestimated my worth, and now my presence is something you can never predict or possess ever again. Hold on to this razor-sharp composure. The most terrifying thing for them isn't an argument. It's when the person who always waited suddenly becomes a total stranger, untouchable and unreachable. And that strangeness becomes even more ruthless when you show them that no matter how long they try to stall for time, you will never be the one standing around waiting for a train that has long since jumped the tracks. 6. Never let them think you're waiting. The most brutal truth you must face right now is this. As long as they believe you will always be standing there waiting, they will never feel the pressure to hold on to you. You are imprisoning yourself in a dark, emotional waiting room, rejecting new opportunities and ignoring potential connections just to save a seat for someone who views you as a second-class backup plan. Wake up. No one rushes to fix something when they believe time is on their side. You are treating yourself like an indefinitely delayed flight in a deserted airport. You sit there hoping the plane will take off while the airline, that person, never had any intention of leaving the ground. They are simply keeping you there as a safety station, a place to return to only when they grow weary of wandering the world. Never waste your life force in exchange for the hesitation of someone who doesn't prioritize you. A person who truly values you will never leave you in a state of limbo or use their absence to test your patience. Look at reality. How many have wasted their youth waiting for hollow promises from those who already disregarded them? They decline invitations and lock their hearts based on the blind faith that their persistence will awaken the other person. In reality, your unlimited persistence is seen only as a testament to your lack of self-worth. My perspective on waiting is simple. It is an act of spiritual suicide. When you wait, you grant them the power to dictate your happiness. The only way to shatter their complacency is to truly leave. No warnings, no long speeches about how much you were hurt, and no final texts seeking clarity. At this stage, every explanation is merely a disguised plea. The most powerful departure is a disappearance that leaves no trace, suddenly stripping away the safety net they took for granted. Let your absence be the only answer to their indifference. When you are no longer a guarantee for their return, they will begin to taste the very insecurity you endured for so long. And remember, once you decide to walk through that door, never look back to see if they are chasing you. If your presence was never valuable enough for them to keep, then your waiting is a self-inflicted sentence of humiliation. But this departure is only the beginning of a higher level of punishment for those who strayed. Because next, you will learn to transform yourself into an eternal standard, a unique entity that they will never find in anyone else for the rest of their lives. 7. Become the irreplaceable standard. The most brutal punishment for someone who undervalued you is not hatred. It is the moment they realize with horror that the world will never produce a second version of you. When they walked out of your life, they were confident you were just an old chapter, an option easily replaced by newer faces. But that is the ultimate mistake of the emotionally lazy. They confuse your devotion with a common commodity. Let your absence become a ruthless yardstick, an eternal standard against which they will measure every future relationship, only to be met with overwhelming disappointment. Imagine having once enjoyed a feast at a luxury restaurant where every detail was crafted with heart and refinement. When they leave, thinking there are plenty of other places, they begin their search. They drift from person to person, experience to experience, trying to rediscover the warmth, the understanding, and the loyalty you once gave for free. But reality will strike them with a painful blow. No one listens the way you listened. No one is patient the way you were. And no one can fill the vast void you left behind. They will realize that what they thought was normal was actually a rare privilege they no longer have the status to possess. You are not a backup plan to be weighed during their idle hours. You are a privilege they forfeited through blind arrogance. It is time to upgrade yourself to a new level where your presence becomes an untouchable legacy. Do not just change your appearance, change the very frequency of your existence. When you become the most radiant and unique version of yourself, you no longer need to prove your worth to anyone. Your silence is now a life sentence for their regret. They will spend the rest of their lives replaying old conversations, hunting for traces of you on social media, and bitterly realizing that the door to paradise is permanently closed. When someone must lose you to see your worth, they have already lost the game. Never lower your standards to fit their mediocrity. Let them live in the shadow of their loss while you soar in a sky they can only look up to with hunger and regret. The truth is, people don't regret hurting you. They only regret realizing that no one else can treat them as well as you did. But by then, their regret is merely a hopeless echo in an empty room. For you have become a standard they can never reach again. And that is the most expensive price to pay for those who dared to disregard a treasure like you. 8. Never go back. This is the final boundary, where your character is tested by the most alluring temptation, the belated remorse of someone who once turned their back on you. Carve this into your soul. If a person only realizes your worth after they have lost you, then that appreciation is not for who you are, but for the convenience you provided. They don't miss you. They miss how you sacrificed yourself. They miss how easily you were manipulated, and they miss how you were always available like a spare part. Do not let tears or vows blind you, for their return is often just the reaction of a wounded ego losing its control, not an awakening of love. Look at the reality of someone who just quit an exploitative job. After you leave and begin to flourish on a new horizon, they suddenly call, inviting you back with promises of a different future. But the truth is, they don't need your talent. They miss someone willing to work overtime for free and endure injustice without complaint. If you nod and return, you are branding your own forehead with a sentence that your self-respect can be bought with a few superficial whispers, and they have the right to repeat that disregard whenever they please. Wavering and turning back only confirms a bitter truth, that your absence was merely a temporary tantrum, a cry for attention rather than the decisive act of a mature soul. You are teaching them that they can abandon you, trample on your feelings, and then reinstate the old order with a few breathless acts of regret. Never deceive yourself. If they truly valued you, they would never have dared to gamble and risk losing you in the first place. People who truly love you never leave you standing alone in the storm, only to reappear later and claim to be your savior. Turning back is an act of betrayal against the powerful version of yourself that you labored to rebirth in the shadows. Every step backward is a knife plunged into the progress you sweated to build. It is time to lock that door, not out of hatred, but because you have moved to a different frequency where their mediocrity can no longer reach. Let your departure be a one-way street, a legacy of self-respect that they will spend a lifetime contemplating in regret. You don't need someone who only sees your radiance once you are at the summit. You need those who saw the treasure in you, even when you were a rough stone. Hold on to this ironclad silence, for the end of this journey is not a fake reunion, but the absolute freedom of an individual who knows how to price their own worth. A freedom that no person who erred can ever strip away again. This section serves as a strategic manual for handling those final, weak attempts at contact. It reinforces the idea that silence is a boundary, not a void. Here is the English translation. 9. Handling superficial reach-outs. When the door is locked tight, the ghosts of the past will try to creep back through the smallest cracks. Superficial texts like, "How's it going?" or "I miss you" on a lonely night. Do not mistake this for remorse. In reality, these are breadcrumbs tossed out to test if you are still an easy backup plan. Stoic philosophy teaches that responding to these half-hearted efforts is an act of self-debasement. It inadvertently teaches them that a minimum level of effort is still enough to buy your attention. If you reply, the relief belongs to them because they know you are still there, still waiting, and the cycle of disregard will immediately restart with an even more ruthless indifference than before. Always remember the status of a 5-star restaurant with the strictest standards. You would never serve a gourmet feast to someone who wants to eat for free or pay a pittance. If their effort is weak, they simply do not qualify to step through the door of your life again. Absolute silence at this stage is not avoidance. It is the most powerful response. It forces them to face the devastating void they created with their own hands. Humans do not learn through explanations or blame. They only truly awaken when faced with irreversible consequences. The consequence of them once undervaluing you is the permanent loss of the right to connect with your energy and soul. Instead of wasting your life force staring at a phone screen and analyzing meaningless characters, dedicate all that energy to creating a brilliant new self in silence. Evolve to the point where the old version of you, the one who accepted emotional crumbs, completely vanishes, giving way to a powerful and proud entity that is unrecognizable. When you truly move on, those superficial messages will become nothing more than background noise, lacking the weight to ripple the surface of your mind. Do not let temporary loneliness or misplaced compassion lead you to pick up crumbs from someone who never knew how to value you. Your silence today is not just a punishment for them. It is a sacred commitment to a life where you are the sole master of all standards. You have learned to reject mediocrity to protect your own divinity, And once you have fully mastered this stillness, you will realize a truth even more profound. Some disappearances never need a farewell, because your radiant new presence is the most expensive answer to every doubt the world ever had. And at that moment, the world will have to look at you with entirely different eyes, a respect you will never have to beg for ever again. This journey to reclaim your soul does not end here. It truly begins the moment you step out of the dark, emotional waiting room where they have imprisoned you for so long. The time has come to shed the skin of a victim begging for attention and don the mantle of the master of the game, the sole individual who holds the ultimate power to price their own presence. Never lower yourself to prove your worth to those who choose to be blind to your light. For a treasure never needs to speak to affirm its preciousness. Carve this manifesto into your heart. I am the standard, and I never prove my worth to those who cannot see it. Right now, perform a pivotal act of change. Hit subscribe and like to walk alongside Stoic journey on the path of forging an ironclad character. Share this wake-up call with those still lost in meaningless sacrifice, and do not forget to assert your position in the comments with the words, I am the standard. This is not a hollow promise. It is a steel contract ensuring you never allow anyone to turn you into a backup plan ever again. Your presence is a luxury privilege, not a free commodity displayed for the indifference of the world. Walk in proud silence, for the price of losing you is a life sentence of regret they will carry forever. We'll meet again in the next chapter, when you have become a version of yourself so radiant and invulnerable that the past no longer possesses the status to even recognize you.